Ooh, we are live. We are live. Welcome, welcome, everybody, to the advanced manifestation community for seasoned manifestors, where we help you go from inconsistently manifesting, creating your life to living your life with the magic of living in the quantum field, creating anything that you actually desire. So today we have a really special guest, my good friend, my colleague, and the amazing Tracy Reiffersheid. So welcome, Tracy. We're going to be going through a case study of some quantum jumps that she's had in her life today. So welcome.
Awesome. I am so happy to be here.
So cool. It's okay. I adore Tracy. As Tracy showed up in our world for classes. Tracy, how long ago was that?
Oh my goodness. I know many lifetimes ago it seems. like seriously. I think it's been maybe 4-ish,
Yeah,
5
I
years.
I think maybe
But
5.
it's yeah, so much. Yeah, like so many versions of me ago.
It's so true. It so happens with this work that you forget like who you were before. Even within 6 months, 3 months, and a year, definitely you've already gone through multiple versions of yourself. Stepping into what you who you are now, because everything changes, and that's really how you know you've had a quantum leap. You've had a timeline upgrade is when you can't remember who you used to be or how you used to function, or it feels so different.
Yeah.
Right. I was looking at pictures of Tracy and I from a few years ago, and I was like, oh my God, she's not even the same person at all. Like, at all. And it's so funny, too, because, like in high school, I don't know about, because Tracy's in Canada, but in high school, people would say in your yearbook, like senior year, signing your yearbook, don't ever change. I'm like, nah, change, 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 keep changing.
Mhm. Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
cool. So let's just dive into it. So, welcome everybody.
Mhm.
If you have any questions, please post them below. If you're watching the replay, just hashtag replay. And let's dive into some of your quantum jumps. So, Tracy's been working with me for a while, so much so that she's gone through all of my programs, and she became a coach with us a few years ago. And she's been um, uh, one of the magical living coaches for the transformation program, one of our accountability coaches for the Creation Academy, and she's done a lot of stuff with us and facilitated a number of things. And Tracy, when she found us, she was already pretty magical. She was already a healer. She was already doing her stuff for many, 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 many years before she found us. But Tracy, I would love to know what inspired you to start working with my programs. Like, what were
Oh,
you
okay.
looking for in your life?
Well, I had been asking some questions, and I realized many years ago, like a couple decades ago, when I ask a question, something in my world changes. And I was involved in some other programs, and it was like I had gotten to about where I thought I was like I was starting to plateau, and I was like, I'm highly aware. I know that there's something greater available for me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what it is. And it's like, okay, I'm doing all the manifesting, I'm doing all the steps, I'm doing everything that everybody's telling me to do. And I'm only getting so far in every area of my life. And it's like, but I know I can see because I can also see the future energies. Is like there's something so much greater than what I'm capable of. And I mean, I already had a really successful coaching business in that. And it's like, but I mean, people have always said, "Are you never satisfied?" Like, and it's like, actually, no. I actually, when I'm satisfied, I think I'm probably done. Satisfaction is such a boring energy in my world. And I am designed to actually research and investigate and keep going forward and following that energy of, I know there's so much greater. And that's the energy that I want to exist in, not where it's just like, hey, I have a little bit of it. I'm super grateful for that little bit. And then I started taking a couple of your classes, and we had overlapped in some of classes where I got to meet you, and I was very drawn to your energy. So I started kind of like following you, not in a creepy way. Maybe it was creepy. I don't know. And but your creation, it was actually Creation Academy that came up in an ad on Facebook, and I think it was about to expire, and I think it had been popped up a couple times in my feed, and it was the whisper, and I'm like, no, no, because there wasn't a lot of information, and because I'm so aware, it was like, I know this is life changing. So the level, it still scared the shit out of, well, the crap out of me. um, Knowing that this is what I've been asking for and this is the direction. And then it was like, hey, just jump on a call with Cory. And we had a conversation. And I remember getting off of that conversation. And I remember this so clearly. My husband, because it was later, I think it was like later evening, and he was already in bed. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is something that is going to change our life, not just my life, but it was like, I am so sure this is what we've been asking for. This is a key to something, and I don't even know what it all is. Now, I also have to say, my husband is highly clairvoyant. He is also super aware. And I gave him the details. I said, "This is what it's gonna cost. This is what it's gonna be." And let you know, I also have to back up a little bit. He had a lot of points of view on money. So even small amounts would be a trigger for him. And he said, "You have to do this." He said, "Whatever it takes, yes, there's something here for you, and there's something here for us." And I just leapt. Like, I leapt into that energy and never had a problem creating funds for the classes. Um, and then everything just started to unfold of what I was perceiving, and I was able to start getting clear in how I was asking. I wasn't There was a lot of pieces of what manifesting or how to create or cast or future cast that I was doing correctly, but there were a lot of missing pieces. So it's like this puzzle that it's like, oh, the edges are all done. Oh, that part is complete, but there's a piece missing in there. Or, oh, where's the image that's supposed to be here? So that's how I perceive, that when I stepped into taking your stuff,
Mm.
that's what changed for me was,
That is
oh, these are pieces.
that is such a great way to explain that, Tracy, because it's really how it is, and that's how most people that come to me that love my work and that gain a lot of value from it is they have so many of the pieces, but then there's these little pieces that are either completely missing, they don't even know they're there, or they're like twisted around the wrong way or flipped upside down. And then it's like we just have to get all of those arranged so it's like, there we go. There we go. There's that quantum jump, and that's when those quantum jumps happen. They're really getting you on a totally different trajectory in your life, right? So let's talk about that. So I asked Tracy before to pick one of she's had so many quantum jumps. I'm sure we could talk for days just about all of hers, but I asked her to pick one of the massive ones, because there's a massive one that she has created. So what is that quantum jump for you?
For me, it is where I am located. It is where I am living my dream life, really. The space, the location, and who I be with all of that.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. I love it, because she just moved into this place a couple of weeks ago. You can see the lake. She's up in Canada. It's beautiful and gorgeous, and oh my gosh, it's so amazing. But so where were you living? Like, well, to give me the basics, give us the basics on where you were living, what it was like, and all of that stuff.
Mm. I was living in a smaller community that we had lived in. Actually, the location, and at that time when I signed up, my idea of heaven was what we had created. I was living in a very beautiful space that we created. I had a successful coaching business. I was very ingrained in the community. I had helped create part of the community with numerous volunteer components. My kids grew up there, very enmeshed in that community, which we would be classified like rural area in Saskatchewan. Like I said, I created a huge, great coaching business there, and this beautiful home that we had, you know, also created. So that's where I started. But if I look back and I'm going to say, yeah, those were the parts that I had. So looking in is like, oh, you had everything. Anybody else looking in would be that. But I was still very much a people pleaser. Most of my choices, and I realize that now, is because of the enmeshment that I was with people that I had grown up with, gone to school with, that, oh, we know who you were before you've announced that you were psychic or talk to dead people or run energy. Who does she think she is doing all right? Because everybody had a lot of versions of who I wasn't running in their minds. So I was continuing to try to break out of that, but still fulfill what they required in that and not rock it too much because, I don't want my kids to be a target at school. I wanted everybody to be happy. So I was I mean, I still had confidence, but not to the level of who I am today. I was a very watered down version of who I am. That was so that's kind of where I started in this journey. Um,
Right. So
you know,
it seemed like you created this great life. You got community, you got all these things, everything seems like it's working, but then it's kind of like it's this level of it's working. And then you started to have awarenesses that more was possible. What were some of those awarenesses?
that space wise, wealth wise, even just who I be was like, there's a whole nother version of me that I haven't explored. Who I was really being in some of that was, again, I had created what everybody else thought I should be. But I knew that there was something so much more, and I was still functioning from a lot of my traumas
Mhm.
and stories. And I'm really actually pretty good at stepping out of a lot of that, but I still had that all threaded into there. Uh, and part of it was because I was stuck. I didn't even know I was stuck
Yeah.
until new possibilities of things started to open. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh shit, I'm stuck.
Yeah, you don't even know what you don't know until you go, "Oh, look at that. Look, what ooh, ooh." As I remember, because one of the things Tracy did, in this whole, upgrade for herself, this quantum jump, is that she had created this business, and then she shut it down,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
What was your awareness that when you were like, "I gotta shut this thriving, successful business down," and it was an in-person, she had, um, therapists in there and a store, and she was doing her coaching out of there, so it was like a hub for people to
Yes.
come and expand their consciousness and feel good and all that kind of stuff. What was your awareness when you started to go, "Oh, I need to shut this down"?
Yeah, so it started to kind of play in my awareness that it's like, and we had just moved locations like months before. We did, some huge renovations, which had already been paid off because the business was thriving. And so it was just like, it's time for us to move on. And a part of that was because my husband and I were talking about we need to leave the location. And right now, where we're living, we're staying because of the business. And I said, oh, well, that's simple. Then we just need to close the business. And just before this, I was at Cory's class in Maui. And we had already known that we were talking about leaving location. So we were spreading out to a place about an hour from where we were currently living because, hey, that's convenient. I can still come back and work and run the place. Don't have to be there full time. I've got great staff. And there was a house, and I remember this really clearly, and it was like, this is ours. And Robbie and I were so like, yes, this house is speaking to us. It is ours. And then I remember we were standing outside and I was talking to you, and I'm like, oh my God, I just found out that we didn't get the place. And you said to me, just like not with any opinion of like, oh, that's like, it was just like, oh, was that your dangly carrot? And I'm like, ooh, what do you mean? And you're like, well, was that your sparkly dangly carrot? And I was like, well, that feels true. What are you talking about? And it was like, well, is that the thing that got you to even asking a question about being able to move? Is this a little bit of like all you could, that would be, and I'm paraphrasing, um, be comfortable with to pivot you enough to that you could start looking at something different? And I'm like, oh my gosh, it is. And then so Robbie and I started having more conversations, and it was like, I actually don't even want to be living in Saskatchewan. And then it's like, well, that means we got to close the business. And it's like, okay, there's no timeline, there's no nothing. So that started at me asking other questions, because if that's what would have first come up or I would have jumped to, I would have been like, oh my gosh, I can't do that. But it
Yeah.
was enough that I got comfortable, like, yeah, let's move. Let's, there's something greater. Yeah, I want to have that. And then it's like, okay, now you're going to have to stretch even farther, Tracy. And so I had gotten the awareness, close the business. Now, of course, you're in a small community, lots of stories, right? Oh, they got to close because they're bankrupt. Oh, they got to do this. And we were closing the business. We're going to put the house up for sale. And I had the awareness about not even 6 weeks after, about 4 weeks after we had decided to close the business, that I needed to just close it, not even sell it. Initially, that was the process. And I was like, what do you mean? And it was so really clear down to my bones, because it's like, why would I not even get the money from this? And I recall then you and I having some conversations so that I could lean into, because it was scary. Like, I'm
Yeah.
going to shut down this amount of money flowing in, and then all the judgments of like that people pleaser really was uncomfortable. And then at the beginning, and I had gotten, you have to close it by the beginning of February. And I'm like, it's middle of January. That's not going to happen. And I was like, okay, middle of February, it will be closed. And the beginning of February, my husband had a huge accident that left him almost unable to walk. And he had to have surgeries, and he was bedridden. And if I wouldn't have closed the business when I closed it, so it probably the business at that point would have failed because my attention was required somewhere else. Now, let me tell you something else though. I had said I'm going to close the business, and I was closing it by mid February, and I hadn't told you that yet. And days later, Cory contacts me and says, hey, are you interested in coaching? So I closed the business. I was offered a job, all because of the energy, and was able to work from home and still create wealth. Now, from there, all the people pleasing, all of the other energies, we moved. We thought we were going to Mexico because an opportunity opened up. And then everything in the world changed. This is where I always know my awareness is correct. It's always leading me and is going to create a greater life. Because one of the things Cory talks about in her classes are energetic priorities.
Yep.
And mine at that time were a life greater than I can imagine and living a magical life. So that is what I was mastering. And in there, lots of very uncomfortable parts I had to deal with. letting relationships go. And I'm not like, I can go back and say, oh, yes, we're where we want to be. And it's all like, and it is absolutely wonderful. But there was a lot of tears at times. There was a lot of hurt. There was a lot of very crunchy moments of like, oh my God, what the hell are we doing here? And one of the things that kept me also going through that was that I had access to some of the groups that you offer. So that it was like, because everybody else was like, you're crazy. There's something wrong with it. She's having a midlife crisis. Like what? They're, and somebody actually said, oh, they're just going to go off and ride unicorns.
Pretty much.
Pretty much.
Yes, you got it.
We are, but that was so having the support of other people that believe and know the magic that exists where we can create from, and each of us creates differently. So that's one of the things I've totally have appreciated that you offer, is that I got to learn how I create, how I bring things into my world, which is every other thing that I had taken is very, this is how you have to do it. And it's like, that's doesn't work for everyone. It doesn't. And you have this brilliance of asking the questions so that we can see how we create in that. And also asking for greater. Is there something even more than this? Oh, this is a great step towards some. So I've always known that there is something that has my back, which is you and the group, which has been such a key part also to my creation. Because if you're constantly hearing, you can't do it, you can't do it, you can't do it. I mean, you can say, yes, I don't believe that. But I do also think that then it takes a little bit longer because I'm having to step out of that energy leak into that greater energy that's available. When you have people like you saying, yeah, I can see it.
Go,
You're like,
Tracy.
yes,
Go, Tracy.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's key. It's key. People trying to do it on their own and figure it all out on their own only have access to their field of consciousness. And then if you are being bombarded, especially if you have people pleasing, right?
Yeah.
Giving up yourself for others or codependent sort of tendencies, your fields are small compared to when you tap into the other fields of consciousness that will contribute, then you can access those that will contribute to you in conversation, in the energy, and lots of other places, which is all stuff we teach. But I'm glad you mentioned that because it really is important, especially when you're making a whole quantum jump.
Mhm.
When you're having a whole quantum jump, whole life, a sustainable one, you're literally going to another timeline and another version of you. Now this version of you is oftentimes more congruent than who you're being right now, right? So the more congruent version of you that's Tracy is magic is one that honors herself instead of people pleasing. The one that says, oh, you're going to judge me, thank you very much, I'm still going to do it what I feel is right for me and my family, right? The one that's going to make me happy instead of even concerning yourself. But getting through that was a big, big element of you being where you are now and as confident in yourself and your creations, untangling yourself from all of that. So it's
Yes.
been amazing to watch you. So
Yeah.
cool.
Well, we've had several moves in the past, 2 years for people that didn't move for like 33 years. It's like, and again, everybody else is looking at it like, oh my gosh, you've moved how many times? Why would you do that? Da, 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 da. And it's like and Robbie and I were actually talking about this last night. It's like every piece has been a step to what we've perceived like over a decade ago. The image of this, of a living by a lake or a body of water in the mountains, has been something, right? That both of us had been able to see. Now we never knew, oh, it's this location. I never heard that. But I got the sense of the energy of it. And
Yeah.
every one of them has created to this point. And I know that there's probably more in that, but I'm willing to go, okay, show me more. And I'm willing to lean into all of that. And I'm going to say probably the biggest thing that has shifted for me from the time that I started for the location is where I'm living here forever, because I probably even said it in when I started creating, I'm gonna live here forever. I've got my piece of heaven and paradise, right?
Yeah.
And not saying it wasn't, it still was for that old version. And by actually being able to lean in and leave, allowed me to step into such a broader energy for myself.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm just kind of tearing up here.
It's massive. It's massive. And I admire so much your willingness to lean in and your willingness to go, well, that awareness is really different. Okay, I guess I'll lean into that. And allowing yourself to go there and to go through all of the hard parts, because what has to happen, and this is basically what you're saying, is you have to untangle from your old self and
Yes.
become this new version of you. But it's not like it starts tomorrow, it's a process. And when you allow it to be a process instead of this sort of magical thinking where we go, oh, I just want it tomorrow, wake up as this new person, like, is that possible? Probably. But we want to create this in a sustainable way. And the sustainable way is one step at a time. And sometimes you don't know what that step is until it shows up and you take that step, or something shows up in your face that you have to deal with, and dealing with it from that trust in yourself, from that, hey, I have this vision. I have no idea how it's going to show up, but we're going to keep taking steps towards that. And I trust that you're going to be living in Mexico or somewhere of the likes at some point, or have some home there,
Yep.
especially when the world opens back up or whenever it's right for you. And it's funny because you answered all the questions I was going to ask you. It's on Tune Tracy and IR. I so love having Tracy on the team. So one of the things I want to offer you guys is one of the things that we focus our energy on in my programs is what we call shift sessions. And they're all about stepping you into your future self. And this future self isn't a creation. It's not like fake it till you make it, figure out who you want to be. It's actually tapping in to your next version of you. It's like your higher self plus a version of you that has a timeline, that has a reality. And usually your wishes and your dreams and the things you want to manifest are already there. But the gap is you're not being that version of you yet. So then people ask me, well, how the heck do I do that? Well, part of it is transmuting all of the patterns and the fears and the worries and all of the stuff that are held by this current version of you, which also is your subconscious, subconscious, unconscious identity. It's who we've built ourselves up to be, that's now layered in, automatically running, right? But we transmute that. And so it makes it easier to step into this future self, right? And every time we do that, and we go every week, we do this. It's called the 5D Vibe Tribe is the program. We do it as a monthly program. I'll pop the link in here for a second. If this is the work that you know you need to do, is really exploring that future self, then bringing that version of you in, what also happens is those awarenesses start peering through stronger and stronger and stronger. Your confidence goes, oh, well, if that's available, then what am I holding on to over here? Let's go. Let's go for it. Let's let that thing go, and let's go. And so we do this every week. And then there's Q&As and stuff like that, but I'll give you the link here. So if you're interested, check it out. It's $100 US a month, and you can stay as long as you'd like, and check it out. If you know you need some, it's not just mindset, but to really do the deep consciousness work to step into that future self, to repattern. Who are you being? Who are you showing up as? Because if you have patterns, you're likely going to keep creating that reality, even though another timeline is available, a quantum leap is available. So while I pop this in, Tracy, you want to give any last tips or
Yeah,
something that
it's
would
just
contribute?
really it's really just following your awareness, even though it doesn't make sense. So for me, the biggest gift I think out of everything that gives me the quantum leaps is that I've gotten out of creating linearly. So even 5 years ago, and I remember actually in January, we were doing a future session in a group, and I had the awareness that, oh my gosh, this is me. This is the me I seen. This is the energy I seen 5 years ago, but not all the details. So, because if then I would have gone, oh, here's your bank account, Tracy, I would have been, oh my God, how did that happen? If it would have been, oh, here's the house you're living in, Tracy, I would have been like, oh my gosh, how did I do that? Oh, you're living in $1 million home. I would have probably tried to apply logic to all of it. But so what I was able to get was the energies, and then all the, all the classes, all the components, all the connection, all the, like you said, I created new patterns to get rid of actually the old layers of patterns that weren't who I was, so that the pattern of who I'm actually meant to be, and designed to be in this world,
Yeah.
can start to show up. So yeah, I would have mind effed myself if and so I actually need people to be able to go, okay, stop. Is this a great time for you to pivot? And it's never with a wrongness. It's always with design, so that in a way that I can see, oh my gosh, there's something greater. And I can choose to be in a different energy space or choices here.
Exactly. Totally conscious and at choice and responding to and creating your reality. And one of the things I love is when you do find those unconscious uh, patterns that pop up that are not as helpful. It's just you're like, oh, look at that! I found another one. Okay, out with the trash. Let's pivot. Like you have such a light-hearted energy about this stuff, and things don't really go into that heaviness anymore with you. You've gotten through so much of the density, especially that people pleasing, so that
Yeah.
now that you're really free and to go even free of pleasing your old self, right? The judgments of the old self that say you shouldn't do that, you shouldn't have this, or you made a wrong choice, or that sort of stuff. You're like, oh well, all right, let's keep going. So much lightness in your world, and I so appreciate that about you. Thank you so much, Tracy. I would love everybody watching to post what one of your ahas is, or one of their favorite parts of this interview was for quantum jumping into new timelines. Let us know what you're getting from this. And Tracy, thank you so much for sharing all of this with everybody, as well as being on our team and in our life. We so appreciate you. So big whooshes to everybody. And hope you enjoyed today's live training. Bye, guys.
Bye bye.